All right, folks, it's time for us to begin. Thank you for coming and welcome. My name is Professor Melissa Adeyeye, and tonight we are talking about networking for small businesses. I know your time is precious, but you have joined with us today, and we're hopeful to give you some tips so that you can improve your entrepreneurial experience. Let's see if I can use this. So tonight, our goals are to build a strong network using some practical strategies, and we want to be effective in how we're connecting with others, and we want to move that business forward. So 4 points that we will talk about tonight is how to talk to anyone and to build that rapport with them. That will lead us into identifying what are some shared interests with those people, and then to create that lasting business relationship with them. So we know that our networks are what's going to help our business to grow. Then we'll think about and take some time to craft a personal business introduction. So those of you who are here with us, if you are willing to unmute or to write in the chat, we'll take some time to actually craft your statement so that you can leave with something tonight. And then lastly, we'll develop a persuasive elevator pitch. That's getting your potential client to understand who you are and what you do in under 30 seconds, a little bit longer than that introduction. So let's get to it tonight. Myself, I am, as I said before, Professor Melissa J. Adeyeye. I am a professor of communication on the Grant campus at Suffolk County Community College. Some of the things I have listed here, number one, is the way to contact me. I would love to hear from you and help you craft anything that you need to help you on your way. What I studied in college was speech communications, rhetoric, and performance studies. And it's a beautiful blend of theory and communication and the practical element of it. And that's the performance part, which we're going to do today in networking. I have over 15 years of experience, and I've done several parts to not only communication, but also on my campus and served my college. Currently, I am the communication club advisor and also of our honor society. At the college, I teach 4 of our basic courses, from Intro to Human Communication, to Interpersonal, which is where we get our networking concepts from, to Public Speaking, and then to Intercultural Communication, which is a part of any connection that we have. And lastly, I've also done some training in various countries in Asia to help teachers increase their effectiveness in the classroom and also amongst their administrative teams. So tonight, I hope that I can bring some skills and some insight to improve your communication and to empower you. So first, how are we going to talk to anyone? How do we build rapport? So the first question is, when is the best time to network? And I have 2 people with us. If you feel comfortable unmuting, please do so, or you can type to me in the chat. I am looking at that as well. So I'll give us a second just to see if we have some responses. If not, I will keep moving. When is the best time to network? Anytime, every time, all the time. So there's always an opportunity when you're talking with friends, family, or you're out in the public. Most of the time when we think about networking, what comes to mind is being at an event where it is specifically set up for you to network. But the concept of networking is really to be social. And that social aspect is what's going to bring us to be comfortable with ourselves, to be comfortable with talking about what it is that we're doing. Now, not only are we developing comfort, but we're also refining how we speak about ourselves. And through trial and error, most people are learning how to identify how to connect with various people. Now, we're going to shortcut that for you with some practical skills tonight, but I want you to think about that. The skills you're learning tonight are something for you to use at any moment. So When you're at your day job right now, if we're doing entrepreneurial on the side, network with people. Use these skills to talk about what you're doing, ask them, connect with them, because you might find a connection to your business path. When you go out into family gatherings, ask other family members or friends what they're up to and continue to craft how to speak about your desires and your plans. And again, see where you might find a connection. So think about that time as any time. Now, I also want to contrast this from selling. Selling usually has a different connotation. When we're talking about networking, we're trying to make a connection in interests. We do have a product or a service, but selling would be more trying to get somebody to buy your product or service. That's not the purpose necessarily of networking. Networking is making a connection that lasts longer or beyond a simple sale. So if we think about networking in its true sense, focus on developing a relationship with that other person rather than trying to get them to buy something in that moment. That may be a result of networking. So keep that in mind. Networking can bring you more than just sales. So what's the next thing we're going to consider? How do you walk into a room? Now, I have that in quotations because in some part I do mean walk, whether it is a networking event or any other event or any other space where you are expecting to talk with other people. Are you the person who walks in the room and scans around to look for a familiar face? Are you the person who, when you walk into the room, you look for maybe the table that has some literature or maybe food, so you don't really have to talk to anyone? Or are you the person who finds a space along the wall, our beautiful wallflowers? I want to encourage you today to walk in that room with your shoulders squared, with your eyes forward, and think about what your face looks like. And perhaps before you get into that space, use the restroom to check yourself. In our leadership series, and I encourage you to come to our leadership series in another session, we will talk more specifically about body posture and facial expressions and do some work with that. But here I want to give you a quick overview. Look at yourself in the mirror and think about, what does my body say as I walk into that room? So as an entrepreneur, you are moving in with confidence. Know that you are a person stepping out into the unknown, which means you have a lot to offer. So as we walk into a room, we're thinking about physically keeping our head up, looking around, and being approachable. Now, I'm going to digress into a study that was done. Persons who we looked at the study looked at persons in a bar. We would see this as a place that is where social encounters happen, where people want to have social encounters. And so they looked at people who were sitting at a bar. And if you can imagine, seats can turn toward that bar. And they're designed so a person can sit however they may like. What the study found is that persons who were sitting directly toward the bar with their back to the open area were not approached as much as a person whose body was turned to the side, open to the open area, and had a positive or a pleasant demeanor on their face. This was an open posture. And this in communication is what we have studied and come to know as an open posture. Eyes are open, looking around, taking stock of the room, if you will. A slight smile on the face says that I am pleasant and approachable. An open posture of open gestures, keeping those hands open as opposed to having them folded. So all of these things are what we deem as open, and that is approachable. In a networking situation, we want people to approach us, or when we want to go approach them, we want them to be open to us. So consider, what does your face look like? What does your body look like? How are you walking into that room? Now, our next concept of building rapport is the norm of reciprocation. The norm of reciprocation states that when you give something, we expect it in return. So this is a principle that takes place in our conversations as well. So we're thinking about networking at any time, walking into that room with an open posture, and then we give a little bit of ourselves, and that's called self-disclosure. So that self-disclosure usually starts out with, hi, hello, good evening, good night, whatever your first greeting is. And in that greeting, we expect it back from the other person. Now, the networking form of what we're going to discuss tonight is, what are the things that you are appropriate to give out? And then what are you expecting to get back from the other person? So if we are networking simply to share our business ideas and possibly find out deeper connections or similar interests, we might get that back from the other person, what their business idea is, or where they work, what institutions or organizations they are connected to, and perhaps any projects that might be in line with your business idea. So that's the norm of reciprocation, that we are expecting it back. The last part about building rapport is thinking about, what is that first impression? Now, I think first impressions give people a little bit of pause and anxiety, because the concept of a first impression is that that is the lasting impression. Not true. We have a couple of impressions in communication theory. Of course, we would use the first impression as being relevant in an interview, and in some cases, networking, that might be the first and only time you get the opportunity to meet this person or to make your impression. But we also have a recency impression. And that will be part of, once we make a connection, what do we do with it? So we'll go through having a business card. Are we following up? Are you following up with a phone call or making an appointment to go out to lunch? Or are you following up with an email? That first impression can become a recent impression. Anything that we weren't able to achieve in that first impression can be done in a more recent impression by following up with your client, with your business connection, whoever it is that you made that connection with. So, how are we talking to anyone? Here are 4 principles that we're going to apply to the skills that we will work on next. Network anytime. Build that confidence. Check yourself in the bathroom mirror, in your car mirror, wherever you have a moment to look at yourself. Pull those shoulders back, stand up tall, slightly smile, and move in with confidence. Then give something of yourself. Give your name, your business ideas, your excitement, and you'll see that you'll get it back in some form. And lastly, following up. That first impression can lead to more recent impressions. So let's get into some skills. brainstorm with me, if you will. I know we have a few people here. Again, if you're comfortable, you may put it into the chat and I can read it there. Or if you feel comfortable unmuting, you can share your ideas. Your videos are not going to be shared. So let's take a few minutes to brainstorm. How are we going to connect with people? Because our conversations aren't always just about our job or our business plan. Our conversations are with other humans. So how will we connect with their interests? So the first thing we can think about are, what are some fascinating insights? What are things that you know that aren't necessarily common? Could that be an interesting fact about um, an animal? Fun fact, do you know that the mascot of Suffolk County Community College is a shark? Well, a fun fact about a shark is that they have to keep swimming in order to stay alive. They are tenacious. And so you would think that our Suffolk County Community College students are tenacious and we keep moving. Fascinating insight. It's a great talking point to continue a conversation or get a little chuckle from that next person. What is something that brings you joy? Is that a beautiful sunrise, if you're up early enough to watch one? Or is it a sunset? Is it a 5-minute walk? Is it a good stretch? Is it a nice cup of coffee? I'm sure any one of those things or whatever you come up with might be something that the next person can connect with as well. Starbucks is a major chain. I don't know if they get your money, but they get a lot of people's money, and that might be something to discuss. In contrast to Starbucks, maybe they're a Dunkin' Donuts person. So having these little pieces of information might be a way for you to find a commonality in your networking moments. Now, what are some things that interest you? We can always think about, well, we can't think about what everybody else is interested in, but we can start with our interests and try those out. Again, using that norm of reciprocation, seeing if or trying, hey, these are the things that I'm interested in. I may be interested in certain artistic expressions. I may be interested in particular types of music. I may be interested in, um, you know, think about certain types of movies, if you will, or certain genres of movies. You might be interested in things that are happening around this particular season, whether it's fall, going into the Halloween season, or we're going into the holidays, different holiday seasons coming up in the next few months. Write these things down. Take a moment to journal, if you will. And this helps you to clearly think about the things that you may converse with in a networking situation. What are your interests? And then you can begin to ask people what are their interests in these same categories or similar categories. Lastly, what concerns you? And here is where we do have to take a bit of a pause, because as we look in the world today, there are lots of conflicts taking place. Especially in a political season, conversations can get tense. And so I would recommend to stay away from politics unless it's clear in the context in which you're speaking. And that's the context of discussion. But what are some other things that are taking place that may be fascinating or concerns? We have had some recent natural disasters, and those may be topics of conversation that may lead to discussions of services, and that might eventually connect to your business ideas on a local conversation. So let's think. You may have some ideas. Where else could you find them? I've written some categories here. What's a recent book? Excuse me. What's a recent book that you've read or your favorite book that you've read? Um, Movies. What's popular on the list? And if you're not familiar with them, do a quick Google search to see what's out there. Um, it's always a helpful idea to look at some of these award shows and who are recent awards or people who are nominated could help you see what are movies that people are talking about or television shows that people are talking about or interested in. What type of pop culture is happening out there? Like music. I mentioned different genres of music before. They don't have to be new today, but they could have been popular at one point in time, and making a resurgence or make a connection. Food, various types of food. We all love to eat, different cuisines, local restaurants, and that might even be some of our businesses, right? Our business ideas of providing food. Arts and design and performing arts. You can think of these things on a local level, which is you. You are the people who are creating businesses in several of these categories, and there may be others as well. But thinking about what is happening around you locally, nationally, or internationally can provide you a connection to the next person and then a way to also talk about your business idea. A helpful tip that I would love to share with you, one of the sites that I love the most is NPR. NPR is a public radio station. And what I love about them is that they do a lot of expository pieces and finding information about various groups. You can find them locally, nationally, internationally, and they talk about a lot of different aspects. And that list that I showed you before are each categories that you can find in their repository here. If you're interested in something, branch out, not just in your business area, but as becoming well-rounded to have a conversation with anyone. All right. Knowing a little snippet to start to explore in that conversation. Here I have a screenshot of Tiny Desk concerts because music is a great equalizer. People just love a good tune. And if you're not familiar with Tiny Desk concerts, they have all sorts of popular music, different genres of artists who come in and give live concerts. And so the artists that you may love or may be popular is doing their artistry in a different form and literally a tiny desk. And so these are conversation pieces that you can have in your pocket to bring out at networking events. Remember, networking is not just selling your business or yourself. Networking is making a human connection. So let's expand our interests and think about all different types of things that bring us happiness, joy, that fascinate us, um, to build our conversations and then to make more lasting connections and relationships with our potential clients or our stakeholders. So at this time, now that we've established we can talk to anyone, we can have a conversation about anything. That first step was, how do I introduce myself? Now, I wonder, whenever there's a moment that says, okay, let's have introductions, are you like this? Swirled all around in my brain. There are so many things that I do. I am now an entrepreneur. I'm starting on this new venture. I'm not quite sure where to go or what to do next is completely normal and fine. Some of what we talked about before of just looking at different interests and different things allows us to be okay with ourselves and having a hand in a lot of different worlds while also moving out into something new. So, what is the practical formula? What are the things that we need to talk about? First, I want to empower you. Here is a quote by Jill Spiegel and How to Talk to Anyone About Anything. Here she's talking about you. When you share your job and your interests with passion and purpose, you become interesting to others and you create fascinating conversations. So here, the main part of what she's saying to you, the entrepreneur, is that it's not the job or the idea that you have that's fascinating. It's you. It's your passion for this area, for this idea, for this nonprofit, for this profit, for the stakeholders that you're serving. What is it that made you excited to go forward with this idea? That you and your excitement is what makes your conversation fascinating. That's what makes you captivating. So begin to put away the self-doubt and the worry about, am I good enough? You are. You're more than enough. Your excitement is what we're looking for. Not just your idea, it's you. You are the business. So let's refine that idea. Of course, we start with our name, right? My name is Melissa Adeyeye, and that's how I started with you. Then we're going to look at who are our stakeholders or our target audience. Who is it that we are using this business idea for? Is it a product? Is it a service? We'll get to what that actually is in our last part. But who do you want to serve? Who are you trying to connect with? You can think of stakeholders as the people who will purchase your products or services. They could also be the people who want to invest in your business. They could also be your local community in which your business exists. They could also be governmental arms of the government that you have to interact with in order to get your business up and going or legitimized, if you will. So think about who is the stakeholder that you are talking to in this moment. And this is important in networking because you may go from one person who is one kind of stakeholder to the next person. Remember, selling is not networking. Networking is giving us all different kinds of people that have some sort of stake in our business. Not everyone is going to purchase our product or our service, but still can be an asset to our business and to our network. So who is that person? Now, what is the purpose of what I do? Here comes your excitement. What are the results that you want to have for these stakeholders? What is it that your product or service is doing to serve these stakeholders? And lastly, that product or service, what do you do? All right. So as you think about in the past, because I'm sure you've networked before you started here, how have you introduced yourself? What would you say? And to whom do you think you would say it? So for myself, I'll use myself as an example. My name is Melissa Adeyeye, and this evening, I recognize that I'm speaking with entrepreneurs. And the purpose of me speaking with entrepreneurs is to help them develop confident communication skills. So the service that I can provide is education and empowerment. 4 things. And I kept it concise. And I will try moving those things around depending on my stakeholders. Now, I mentioned before that I'm a professor of communication at Suffolk County Community College. When I'm speaking to students, they are also stakeholders, but now they have a different purpose. I have different age ranges for my student population, and I may also have different course material for certain student populations. So on one hand, I may be focusing on interpersonal relationships, and my purpose would change to help enhance effective interpersonal communication. Versus when I'm teaching a course on culture, I would want to educate what culture is and help them develop effective skills in intercultural communication situations. So think about what it is that you do, and then how does it change from stakeholder to stakeholder? Think about the various situations in which you might network. Perhaps you are invited to a networking event. Try to get a list of who will be there. Where will there be established organizations that you can research? And then you'll get a chance to know who they serve and what their products are. Then you can craft your introduction to think about how you might connect with them. Um, if you're going into personal situations, you can take quick stock of asking people what it is that they do or what their interests are. And that can also help you craft your introductory statement to, again, fit the interests that connect with you, not necessarily trying to make you fit everybody, but to connect what you do with things that are interesting to them. So when we have that introduction, this leads us into the conversations. What are some achievements that you have? Where are some places that you have served prior? Or what are your plans for future services? Now, that introduction, how you do it also matters. Remember, we're going back to those 4 principles. At any point, you can network. We're always thinking about how we walk into that situation with those shoulders back, that head up, that slight smile, arms open, and being approachable. And we're making sure that that is a positive first impression by being clear, confident, and talking about what it is that we're bringing to this moment, looking for reciprocation from them. So I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to email me if you'd like to try out your introduction with me. But we'll move on to our next concept, which is the elevator pitch. Now, the elevator pitch is very similar to your introduction, but that introduction can lead us into deeper conversation, right? We can talk about the tiny desk at NPR. We can talk about books, current events, the latest movie that's out, or something interesting that's happening in the holiday season. But the elevator pitch is a 30-second or less pitch to introduce yourself and to get an ask all before you make it to the next floor. If you think about you're on an elevator, whether you're the first person to get in or not, you're probably not headed to the same floor. And so you want to make a quick connection, get your business card in their hand or your name in their head so that you can follow up later. So there is a quick and easy solution. Patrick Deng, who is a Silicon Valley marketing specialist, has given us this simple formula. This is even more concise than the personal introduction that we tried out just a few moments ago. I help X achieve Y by doing Z. Now, this is making it very bare bones and quickly and concise that we're going to put into that elevator pitch. First, the X is that target audience or the stakeholder. The Y is the value. So that might be our product or our service. What does it help them achieve. This might be tailored specifically to that target audience. And lastly, how? How am I doing it? How does my product or my service do that? So again, I'll try it out with myself as an example. My target audience are students. My achievement is academic goals. And what do I want them to do? Develop their confidence through effective communication skills. So, what is my elevator pitch introduction? I help students achieve their academic goals by developing their confidence through effective communication skills. That was less than 5 seconds, right? So that gives us a little bit more time on that elevator. This is also a really helpful tool in just understanding what is it that you do, right? You know that you have a service or a product. You know that there are so many parts to it because as being an entrepreneur, you are dealing with all the different parts of this new business. You're also maybe still figuring out who you want to serve. You may have a large group, and we can use that overview or that category of people as we still refine the different small niches in that large category of people. But use this statement to understand this is what I do. There's that dreaded introduction again. Perhaps when you're in family or friend social circles, that question comes up. What do you do? Right? For an entrepreneur, that can be a daunting question. Let's use this formula to get it clear and concise. So, what do you do? I'm going to change it up again. I help entrepreneurial learners achieve confidence and self-presentation by developing effective communication skills. That's what I do. All right. That sounds clear and concise. Well, what does that lend to? Oh, tell me more. So we can add in more details at that point. This can be used in an introduction, but here we're going to use it toward our elevator speech. So let's take apart what else we can say in a 30-second speech. So from Princeton University Center for Career Development, they give us 3 questions to answer. 1, who am I? What do I do? And lastly, what's my ask? So we just used 2 examples of how we can introduce ourselves. We had a longer example looking at our name, stakeholders, our purpose, and our product or service. And then we had a more concise 1 sentence, I help X achieve Y by doing Z. Now, who am I? Well, entrepreneurial is a state of being. What is your position? What do you call yourself? Are you the CEO? Yeah. Are you the founder? Yes. Use those titles because that is what you are. Remember, step out and present yourself in confidence. Secondly, what do I do? Use that XYZ clear statement. Lastly, what's my ask? Now, this is the kicker. If we're on that elevator and we only have a few seconds to get them to reciprocate, right? We need to tell them what it is that we want. We don't have time to massage it out through interests and maybe a longer networking conversation. So what do we want from them? Let's move into an example. This example was shared with us by a sports psychologist. He was a US Olympic and Paralympic committee member. And so here is his elevator speech. Hi, I'm Sean McCann, a sports psychologist here at the USOPC. One of the things I learned early on was that the biggest events, where you really want an amazing result, can often produce new thoughts, new emotions, and new behaviors. So just when you want predictability, control, and certainty, great athletes often struggle to manage feelings of uncertainty. If we work together, I'll figure out how to increase certainty and help it happen when it matters most. There isn't one way to do this. Some athletes like to connect at competitions only, and others like to meet every week or once a month. That's up to you. What matters is that we keep our focus on the things that really make a difference. So let's pull this apart for a moment. First, we have his name up front. Don't forget to say who you are, Sean McCann. Secondly, we're still saying who he is. He's a sports psychologist. Where? What's the name of your business? Okay, so he gave us his name, his title, and the name of the business, institution, or organization. Now, the next thing he goes into means he knows who his target audience is. And if we look through this, this person sounds like they are the athlete who he wants to work with, right? So a potential client. Now, he's giving us the passion in this first statement. At the biggest events, you want amazing results. He's speaking to the interest of the client. And it can produce what? What happens in that moment for them? What is it that they want, right? Think about your client or your potential customer. What do they want from a service like yours, right? This is something we need to think about ahead of time. So he's saying you want predictability, control, certainty. And if you work with me, I will help you increase X. So let's go back to your business. If you work with, or if they purchase your product or use your services, you can help them achieve what? What's that goal that they have or that you can imagine that they would want from your service? Lastly, we see his ask. His ask isn't really a question, is it? It is a definitive statement, right? We have to show people that they can use our product or services definitively, that it can work for them, right? And this is persuasive. We're not asking for permission. We're telling them how it can happen. So in his last statement, his last few sentences, there isn't one way to achieve whatever that goal is. However, others like to meet once a week, so we can either meet at competitions or we can meet once a week or once a month. He's giving the parameters of the next time that they can interact, right? So choose one of these. I can either email you, call you, or we can follow up via text. His last statement, what matters is that we keep our focus on the things that really make a difference. That is bringing us together. He's using some important language here, and that's an I versus we, or we could reverse that, we versus I. Use inclusive language. When we start to talk in inclusive languages using we, the person can see themselves with us. They are visualizing us being partners in whatever this business relationship is, whether it's a stakeholder investing in the business, or it is a potential customer, or if it's a local network. Use that we in our conversations so that we envision working together already. So 3 things that we're doing when we create an elevator pitch. Who are you? Remember, you are awesome. You are stepping out into a beautiful unknown territory. So tell us your name, tell us your position, at your organization or company? Who are you? Say that outright. Secondly, what do you do? Tailor that message to your stakeholder. What can they imagine? Have them imagine what you can do for them to satisfy their needs. Then lastly, what's your ask? We're not really asking a question here. We're saying what the next step should be in our connection before they get off that elevator floor, or the elevator itself, rather. Craft this statement. I encourage you to take some time to write it out. Write it out word for word, like the example that you see here. Practice it. Practice it in front of the mirror. Practice seeing how you would walk into that elevator or walk into that room, so that this is something in your back pocket that you can pull out at any time to network in a 30-second little stint. Here's another example. And I kind of tailored this to a women's nonprofit. And again, it's very non-specific, but you will be specific about your work. Hi, I'm your name, the founder of whatever your company or nonprofit is. Where, what do? We transform the lives of the people in our communities. What's our mission? Our mission is to, and with a dedicated team and impactful programs, we are creating a supportive network that fosters growth and leadership among women. Together, here's that inclusive language, we can inspire change and build a future where every woman thrives. I'd love to share how you can get involved. And the next part is that business card, that connection, or how can I contact you? Take some time to write this out and practice it. Remember, communication is not something that any of us were born with. It's a skill. So it takes practice, and you will continue to use it at any moment because networking is done anywhere. So as we have crafted that elevator pitch, we've crafted our introduction, ready to connect interests of a variety of topics at a moment's notice anywhere with anyone. Keep in mind, don't be shy. Share, tell about yourself. Be ready to do these things on a moment's notice. So the traditional way of physically connecting with another person is that business card. Don't forget to do them. Folks, they are so inexpensive these days. There are so many printing sites, whether they are local or you can order them online, and you can change them if you change something with your business. But get a business card, something that you can just pull out when you're conversing with people, something to write on to add information. We also have digital business cards. Depending on the type of phone you have, you can create that digital contact card that just taps between two Apple phones. I couldn't tell you too much about Samsung, but I'm sure they have software too. This is the day and age we live in. I also highly suggest to you to keep a photo album that is specifically about your business. Now, some of our businesses may not have products that can have an actual photo, but it might be a service, So what are some images that might represent your service? And I highly encourage you to get connected to other sessions in the Entrepreneurial Service Center, like Canva, to learn how to use some of these digital platforms to create images and helping to promote your business, because a visual image makes it last longer in our minds and helps to make a stronger first impression and connection. I'm going back to that photo album. I have a little heart here because in your camera roll on your phones, you can quickly, excuse me, you can quickly like that photo to send it into that photo album. So when you're connecting with other people, you don't have to go through hundreds or thousands of photos. If you have a lot like me, you just simply go to your business camera roll where you can show evidence of your great work. Don't be shy. Talk about yourself. Show your interest and your excitement because that is what is drawing us to you. I will share a few things with you that I have done, some pictures that you will find easily of me on the internet, of different connections that I've had, different stakeholders that I have served. And I am proud to be of service to all of my various students and participants who come and talk with me and share with me. So I have these things that I'm willing to say, hey, go out, look up what it is that I do. And if this is interesting to you, please come back and share with me and let's talk more about how I can help you feel confident in your skills. So at the end of each one of our sessions here in communication, I want to share with you the resilience pyramid. And you can find this from Cornell University, more specifically Cornell Health. And although this doesn't look like the best shapely pyramid, there are some important points here to help you be your best self and to be an effective communicator. And if we look at the bottom here, it says practice. Practice good sleep as much as you can. Try to move. Take a 5-minute walk, a 10-minute walk, get up and stretch. Eat. Eat healthy foods. Eat foods that fuel your body to give you the energy that you need to do. And take some time to breathe. Yes, we do it to stay alive, but consciously breathe. Take a moment to relax and appreciate the breath that keeps you alive. That allows us to engage, to connect with nature, to just have interests that make us happy, to be fun. Use the resources around you. You have resources from this session and resources from our Entrepreneurial Center. Lots of things that you can learn to help you along your way. And don't forget to connect. This networking session was to encourage you to connect with anyone and everyone at all times. Humans are businesses, so connect with that human first. Next, we can move into reflecting, then making meaning, and then to our higher purpose. Those next three are sessions that are in our next session to help us become the leader that we see ourselves being. I invite you to come with me to another session. If you are only able to come to online sessions next week and the week after, we'll have communication strategies for business owners, and lastly, leadership skills for business owners at the same time, 7 p.m. And if you're available on Saturdays, you can join me this Saturday at 12:30 p.m. For leadership skills and business owners, taking a look at that upper pyramid and focusing on emotional intelligence, a way to manage those emotions to be effective in high pressure situations. I thank you for your precious time this evening, and I'm so glad to have you. I have a hand up. Go ahead and unmute.
Yes. Can I ask you a question? You talked
Absolutely.
about um doing a photo album. What if it's a service that you provide? How would you do that?
So that's a great question. That's a little bit more challenging. So your service means we can't always see it, right? But you may have pictures of you serving. So For example, I'm a service person. I'm not a product, but these are pictures of me in the action of when I am doing those things. So, um, obviously, I'm in the picture, so I didn't take it, but I would also invest in having someone take photos of you or staging photos of what it looks like when you provide your service. And that's a part of marketing. Any other thoughts? I hope that answered the question.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions about any parts of what we talked about this evening? Well, I am available to you. As I said before, my email address is ADEYEYM, as in Melissa, at SUNYSuffolk.edu, and I would love to hear from you and provide any tailored advice that I can. And I'm excited for you to be on your journey, and thank you again for spending your time with me. Take care.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
My pleasure.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Jay.